Hey, what's up, guys? Christian Brindle here, and I'm back with another video. And today I have another very, very special guest here with me. Today I have Mr. Ken Sutton. He runs an awesome YouTube channel over at Apogee Quote Agent Training. Ken, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Christian, for having me on. It's my pleasure.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, I dig what you're doing. I love your channel. I watched a couple of your videos and it's really, really great material. Talk a little bit about, first off, talk about your channel and kind of what kind of stuff you guys cover on it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I'm glad you found some value out of that. So what I do, I specialize in final expense, and where that channel is specifically final expense sales training. Now, I'm also branching out and helping other agents with other sort of avenues and training, and I'm having other folks on the channel to speak about their expertise. But for what we focus on in that channel is better helping agents, whether they're new or experienced, help their clients and make more sales so that they can have their best week, their best month, or their best year ever. And these are all proven techniques. We go over technical training. We go over mental training. We have a lot of other just ethical training, and we get nitty gritty, and it all comes from experience. It all comes from real, true, tried, tested experience and stuff that I'm still doing today. I've been doing it for 7 years. And we have also some other interviews with other agents who are successful and who are top producers, and they give insights on things that they're doing as well. So it's just filled with a bunch of knowledge, really just to help the agents better help their clients and have their best month, year, week ever.
I love it. I love it. And I think that's what it's all about. You're a big time producer. Talk a little bit about, because I think the first thing that people always, ask about, or they want to know more about, like anytime they see somebody that's putting trainings out, they want to know what's your credentials, right? Like, why should I listen to you? Talk a little bit about some of your credentials and some of your accomplishments as a producer.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So I think it's important. I think it's important to, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but to know, what you're teaching.
Yeah.
I come from a martial arts background, and in jiu-jitsu, if you're familiar with Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it's grappling. It's like wrestling.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what you're doing, you just get smashed.
Yeah.
And it's very similar, if you're selling insurance, if you don't know how to sell and you try to sell insurance, unless you've done it for a while and a long time, you just don't know. So, when I started in the business, when I first started in final expense, it was about 6 or 7 years ago. And my first year in final expense, it was all face-to-face. I was running direct mail. I was working like crazy, 12, 15-hour days all the time, driving 200-300 miles a day, knocking on doors, setting appointments. And I was the fifth in the country for Transamerica. With that company alone, I wrote over $100,000. And that was, 6, 7 years ago. I mean, there's agents now who have written $100,000 in a month. That's over the phone. I've heard of a face-to-face agent doing it. I don't know how you do it on your own pen, but that was just with one carrier. And that was my first year in the business. I got awarded. I got sent on stage. There's a little award back there, if you can see it, the little pyramid. Woohoo! So I keep it there for social proof. And then I started to kind of get burnt out of driving around all the time, and I eventually made my way into telesales. And I was an average producer of about 15 or 20,000 a month in issued premium when I was face to face. And when I started selling over the phone, I've been having my biggest months ever. I was having $30,000, $32,000, $33,000 months. And since going over the phone, it's just really increased. And I was on the leaderboards with Digital BGA. I'm not the best producer. I'm not the top producer out there in the world. And I have no shame in that. Right now, the way I run my business now is I'm producing and I'm training agents, and I'm also spending time with my family. So I'm just not out grinding in the field 24/7 anymore. But I have the 7 years of experience and the awards and the leaderboards and the accomplishments to back it.
Absolutely. I mean, the way I look at it is, there's only one person like on earth that's going to be the number one, the number one, producer in terms of income. Like I would say there's people in the Medicare game that have written more business than me. But what I always preface my comments by saying is there's not many of them.
Yeah.
And I'd say there's probably the same thing with you, in the final expense world. There's not probably too many people that outright you and outproduce, kind of what some of the stuff that you've done. One thing I wanted to kind of dive into a little bit is your background in terms of how you got into insurance. Because I always find that people never really I've yet to meet the person that was growing up in school and they're like, I'm going to grow up to be an insurance agent. I haven't met that person yet. It's always an astronaut or a firefighter or whatever the case might be. Someone, even if a kid wanted to be an insurance agent, they might have been like, swirlied or something, like nerd. But but talk about how you got into insurance. Like, how did you find it? What was the introduction?
Yeah. It's actually a pretty cool story. So I'm glad I think it's pretty cool, at least. I never in school wanted to be a insurance agent. I wanted to be an athlete. At first, I wanted to be a professional basketball player. I loved Pistol Pete, Utah Jazz. Oh. He was I think he was the Jazz. Oh man. See, I love him. And now I'm like, but anyhow, he was a point guard. And I loved the movie. And Johnny Stockton, he was definitely Jazz.
Yep.
And then, I wanted to play lacrosse. I played lacrosse. And, so I was bouncing around, but I always wanted to do something physical, so this was a huge change for me. And I was training jujitsu with a friend of mine, and Simon Arias. So shout out to him. He introduced me into the business. And I started in an American Income Life. And I was training. Originally I went to the beach and we just had our little boy, Elliot. We have 2 kids now. He is now 8. He'll be 9 in October. And awesome. Ezra is 1.5. So, I remember we're at the beach. We barely had enough to go, and we scraped up the money to go with my wife's family. And I saw this guy bringing out, like kids' toys and out of his SUV and all this stuff. And I'm like there with my baby in like a towel, and I'm like,
yeah,
how do you afford any of that? And I remember thinking like, man, I got to figure this out. I got to do something better. And, I was training jujitsu and I see Simon, he comes into class and he parks his Bentley in the parking lot. And I'm like, what the heck does he do? And I never had desires to be wealthy beyond all measures. And so I called him up, and we weren't really close at the time. And I Googled him and I did a little research, and I was like, hey man, I see you're pretty successful. Can I get a job? And he was like, do you know? And I was like, I kind of know what you do. And he's like, well, what would you not do for it? And I'm like, I don't really want to be scrubbing toilets, but I'd like a job if I can do that for you. I just called him up and he was like, well, come over. And he took me in his Bentley, took me to all of his offices. And, he showed me the potential of insurance. And I started off in American Income Life, and I had some great training there. And, it wasn't the business model that I wanted to follow. So, after about 6 or 7 months in the business, I was good. I was a top producer there just for a month. I was like number 2 out of like the small, it wasn't small, but out of the agency I was in, I hit the leaderboards, and I had no idea what that meant. I was like, well, I still don't think I'm doing as well as I should be. Right. I was very, very hard on myself. I'm like everyone's like, well, good job. And I'm like, I don't feel like I'm doing a good job. Like I need to be doing more. I need to be doing better.
Yeah.
So, I decided, I was like, you know what, I want to try something different. I want to stick with producing, but I want to see what else is out there. And I found final expense insurance. I was doing a lot of research, and I was doing a lot of cold calling. I called through a bunch of different agents who I had met online and a bunch of different IMOs, and just talking like, hey, what do you do? Mortgage protection. Those were a lot of nighttime and weekend hours. And I was like, okay. And I found final expense. And really what attracted me to that was, 1, I had my insurance license and I knew I could sell. And 2, the hours were perfect for what I wanted to do. What I originally was mostly daytime hours, working with seniors. I really had a heart to help people. I always really liked helping. And, when I played lacrosse, they made an award up for me. It was called the Mother Goose Award. It's because if anybody got hurt, I'd run out of the field like, are you okay? Are you okay? Even if I wasn't playing at the time. So, I had that heart to help. Mm-hmm. And I found final expense insurance, and I said, you know what, let's go. And I had like no money at all to start this business. And I was like, well, I can get a credit card and I can start leads, and $600 a week. Started buying leads and just started working like crazy and writing business. And, I was a top producer in my first year, recognized. And, from there, it was a lot of hard work, a lot of ups and downs, but, and still growing. So that's kind of how I started.
That's awesome. For me, and it's something that we talked about previously, but about how you were all in from the get-go. You know, you like
Yeah.
you're putting yourself in debt to buy leads, right? Because you believe in what you're doing that much to be like, this is temporary, right? We're gonna survive, we're gonna get through this. And I feel like I never want to tell an agent to go in debt,
Yeah.
but some people should go in debt, like to do, to not even necessarily go in debt, but like they're willing to do what they have to do to make it work, right? Like there is really no cookie cutter, like, this is going to work guaranteed 100% of the time. It's more so like you're going to make it work if you make it work, if you have the level of grit, right? That is required. So with the leads, right? Let's kind of jump into this a little bit. So like you're buying leads, right? $600 a week. What kind of leads are there? The direct mail, or you're going to the door? What does that experience look like?
And real quick, I want to touch on that, the grit part, and starting off like you did. And then I will definitely answer that about the leads. So, I had this desire to really do better for my family. And,
Mm-hmm.
I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. So I'm a faithful person in that respect. And I'm not perfect. I'm not saying
Sure.
that. But like, I was very prayerful as well for me. And I remember, Simon praying for me, but like I had I had this family and I felt like I needed to take care of them. There was no comfort in not doing good enough. And I didn't really know what good enough was, but I knew I felt in my heart and in my being that I wasn't doing good enough. And I saw the ability that if I can make this work with final expense, well, I am going to make this work, and I will be doing good enough for them. So, and the desire to help other people. So there was no like, well, if this doesn't work out, then I'll go do this. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this and I'm going to give it everything I've got. And I mean, there's a lot more I could talk about with that, but I appreciate you bringing that up because it, I wasn't comfortable starting, and I
Yeah.
wasn't like I had 20 grand saved and I could take my time and ease into the business. I had nothing, and I had to go, and I had a fire in my belly and under my butt to get up and get out and work. So the leads, we'll talk about the leads.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I started working with direct mail leads. So it's a postcard. It's essentially kind of like a junk mail. I don't want to say it like
Mhm.
that, but it's essentially like a junk mail piece that comes to the client, and they fill it out. They fill out their name, and it says state approved or state regulated. However, the compliance is, it's been 6 or 7 years, 5 years since I've worked a direct mail piece, but insurance and burial programs, and send this card back in, and they put their age or their spouse age, they put their phone number, their address is already there, and then they sign it. They have their signature on it. And there's two ways to go about it. One is you can call and set appointments, and a lot of people just don't pick their phone up. And the other
Mhm.
way is to go and you knock on their door and you show them the lead card. And that's how I started. I did everything. I did both avenues. I was pretty good at setting appointments because of my prior training. And in fact, when I was with AIL, I remember I was like out of leads and I was out of referrals, and I was talking to my manager, and he's like, well, here. And he gave me just a big stack of old stuff that nobody really wanted. It was a bunch of seniors basically. And I was like, and couldn't get anybody on the phone. And he's like, go out and knock on their door. And I'm like, okay, like, all right, I guess I'll do that. And I went out and I wrote like my biggest policy on this 65-year-old guy for he's like, oh yeah, I need burial insurance. He's like, I'm glad you stopped by. And I was like, what?
Wait, really? Are you
Yeah, I
sure?
was like, hold on. I wrote like my biggest policy ever. And I'm like, wait a second. That's when I started getting, scratching my head thinking about this. So I wasn't comfortable door knocking at all. When I first started, I was terrible. And the same thing with everything. I was really bad when I started. I was like shaking at the table. I was not a good agent starting out.
Yeah.
And I just worked at it and worked at it and worked. I just would not accept failure. And yeah, I would call people up and I would set an appointment, or I would go knock on their doors. And if I called them up and they said, no, not interested, or I don't remember, click, I'd go knock on the door and say, you filled this card out, and that's what I would do. And between appointments, knocking on doors, I would get up around 6:30 in the morning, I would drive like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So I get to my first appointment or door knock by around 9:30. 9 o'clock, usually my first appointment. I like to start knocking around 9:30, 10, and I would knock until it got dark. I didn't really like to knock after dark. And then I would knock doors, pull over, make phone calls, knock on doors, pull over, make phone calls all day, every day for years.
Yep. Yep. I mean, and it doesn't sound necessarily sexy, but that's the thing that people don't understand. Like, that's what you got to do to be successful and to write business. And you have to get out there kind of in the trenches and push and shove a little bit and hustle and grind. And I think that kind of stuff is what agents need to know. Be like,
Yeah.
there's so many people in our business that are recruiters, right? There's organizations out there, they're like these MLM organizations, and they paint a picture almost that it's like, this will be great.
Yeah.
Like, you don't, it's going to be easy. It's like, if even if you're bad at it, you'll make,
Yeah.
600 grand your first 2 months or something, right?
Yeah.
Whatever, like they just say these like wild things to get people into the business. I always tell people I don't think I'm a very good recruiter whatsoever, because I tell people the truth from the get-go. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be hard.
Yep.
On the Medicare side, you got to do certifications, you got to do AHIP. It's gonna suck. I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and but I would rather somebody know that and weed out the people that aren't serious than I get on a bunch of people that shouldn't probably really be doing it in the first place. They never really had that commitment, and so
Yeah. And I'm the same way, a lot of my content, and I'm sure you've seen a little bit, a lot of the videos I talk about, it's a hard business. It's not an easy business. I mean, it's a very simple business. The general doing of the business is get it. Well, when I was face to face, now I'm all over the phone, which makes it's actually harder to sell over the phone, which I found, but it's much more rewarding for me for what I'm doing with my lifestyle and with my business. I'm in 40 different states. So I talk to people all over the country. I help a ton of people. I've had, like I said, my biggest months ever. I'm able to help out other agents, and I'm in basically here all day in my office working. But it's simple. You just talk to people. That's all you really do is talk to people, educate them, figure out why they needed your help, why they either called you or sent the card in, or why they agreed to a callback, or whatever the case is, filled the form out, whatever the case is. And just letting them know, hey, you have a problem, and they know they have a problem, and agreeing with that, and then saying, here's the solution, and let me walk you through it. So the whole concept of the business isn't a difficult concept, but doing it in and out and consistent activity, that's what gets really hard. And you're right. There are a lot of recruiters out there, one, who just sell the dream like it's a piece of cake. And then there's a lot of recruiters out there too who actually haven't really done it, or haven't done it long enough to they've done it and failed and said, well, I'll just build a team off of because I couldn't do it, and I'm going to just try to gain overrides. I'm the exact opposite. I know we were talking and you said you don't slide into people's DMs, and I'm the same way. I've had the agents I have under me, I've been very fortunate. They've all contacted me. I haven't, I'll do my content and I'll make posts, and I really try to make informative posts to really help answer questions. And, I try to brand myself in a way to where, and my agency in a way to where, I'm not looking for massive growth right away. I'm not trying to throw whatever sticks to the wall. I really want to paint the truth about this business. And there's a lot of great things about this business. There's
100%.
a lot of awesome benefits. I mean, financial benefits, helping people. Now I built my own office outside. And so I walk back and forth to my office, to my home. And like, that's great for me and for my family. I couldn't do that when I was face to face. And there's not a lot of businesses that, well, maybe now because of COVID that you can, but I run my own schedule, and I really like that. And there's a lot of benefit, but it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. And I say that because, like, I got to get up and I got to make sure I'm going to work. No one's calling me, no one's telling me what to do. No one's telling me I need to do this, and no one's telling me where to spend my money or invest my money into these leads. And, I have coaches, and I still have help, and I still have a team I rely on, but it's all up to me. At any time, if I don't do the work, I don't get any of the rewards.
Yeah.
And agents need to know that, especially recruiting. I take the time. I like I said, I'm not really a recruiter, but I am growing an agency. And when an agent comes to me, there's a mutual commitment. And one, that commitment is, you're going to be coachable and willing to work, and because this is how the business is. And two, I'm going to be committed to you, to teaching you there side by side. I'm going to be selling there with you. I'm going to be training. You're going to be hearing my calls, hearing how I overcome all of these objections that you're going to have, and in the real live stuff that actually works, and not in an arm twisting way, in a completely ethical and moral way, because there's too much sugar coated cookies that are being fed. And it's a great business, don't get me wrong, but it's a tough business. It takes grit.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think that's very well said. And I agree with everything you said there. A question I had for you about maybe from a strategy perspective. The audience on this channel is probably more than anything else Medicare agents. I've always said that final expense and Medicare go together like peanut butter and jelly. If there's a Medicare agent that maybe was looking at maybe trying to figure out a great way for them to cross sell final expense more to their existing book, maybe they have a book of a few hundred clients or 500, 600 clients. Maybe they have a book of 1,000 clients, Medicare clients, whatever the case might be. And there's that relationship aspect of it, right? What do you think is a good strategy for somebody that is a Medicare specialized agent or ACA or whatever? Probably Medicare better, it would be better, but to maybe get some more final expense premium out of their book of business.
Yeah. And it's like, it's one of the best things an agent can do is to cross sell to their book. And like you said, you already have the relationship with the client. If it's Medicare, am I correct here? I don't do Medicare, but there's no premium to that. Is that right?
It depends on the product. So like there's Medicare, there's two different flagship products. One has a premium, and another doesn't, but the one that doesn't is certainly the more popular product.
Okay. So
but
there are multiple. Okay. Yeah. Well, especially if you've already gotten them a product where there's no premium, I mean, that's great because you've already built them a lot of trust. Even if you had sold a product that does premium, same thing, you've built them a lot of trust. There are agents I work with and that are in the realm of what I'm doing in our team. And they have books of Medicare that they cross sell. And from my understanding, it's one of the easiest cross sells. You've gained their trust. And it could be a simple question, what do you have in order for your final expense? Or what do you have lined up for your burial insurance? Or, okay, for your Medicare, the conversation, and if you build a little rapport with the client, oh, your son or your daughter, oh, that's great. Do they have your final expenses taken care of? Or do you have any sort of burial insurance for them? Or who do you have for your burial insurance? And there's a bunch of ways that you can present that and just ask. Yeah. And a lot of times they'll say, oh, I don't know. Or, oh, I have something. Hey, I may be able to save you a lot of money. And just like I helped you out with the Medicare, I may be able to help you out with that too. And then start asking questions and offering that service. Yeah. You've already built the trust. It's a free lead. They already know who you are. So definitely need to take advantage of that if you're not, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I look at it like they can't buy it from you if they don't know you do it.
That's right.
That's what I always tell people. Cause like there's so many agents I feel like have trouble cross-selling. If it's not even final expense, it's anything, right? Because like in the Medicare game, there's dental policies, there's just different kinds of policies that you can cross-sell. And so many people never even talk about it or mention it or even, send out a letter about it, whatever the case might be. There's just no form of communication. So they might end up needing it down the road and they're going to buy it from someone else because they don't realize that you're doing it. A lot of times, people are afraid to lose their sale. They're maybe afraid to lose the primary sale. I always tell them, listen, the worst thing they can say is no, number one. And number two, even if you do it badly, you'll still get 1 out of 10 people you ask or 2 out of 10 people you ask, right? It's just like do you want fries with that mentality almost even? And even if you take that approach, you're going to write some.
It is. And talking about it, like if you're a Medicare agent, you don't need to be a specialist in final expense. And, it's the same thing. If we're final expense agents, we don't need to necessarily specialize in Medicare. And, I may get some slack for saying this, but it's true. You're still helping your client. If you're a Medicare agent and you just know, like 2 decent final expense companies, that's really all you need. I mean, even final expense agents, you don't really need more than just a few. I mean, it's great that we have licenses and contracts with 12, 15 or more carriers, but any solid agent, any mature agent in the final expense business is mainly placing business with 1 or 2 carriers. Yeah. Maybe if there's a GI or graded, but for Medicare, you really just need a decent carrier. American Amicable is a great carrier. They take a lot. Or Royal Neighbors of America, great carrier. They take a lot. If you just have one and you ask after every sale or just go through when you're doing a review or just call up your clients and say, hey, do you have life insurance? No, I don't. I can help you out with that. It's no problem. If they want to, great. And if not, they're not going to hate you. They're not going to come through the phone or they're not going to stab you in the eye at the door. It's not like that.
Definitely. I totally agree with you. Talk a little bit about your long-term vision for your business. Where do you see your business going to, your YouTube channel, potentially your brand? What do you see in the next 5 years? What's your long-term goal?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I'm going to preface it with kind of, how this started. When I was in the field, I always wanted to be putting content out. I went to film school and I didn't finish. I was like, not for me. But I saw that I like that. I don't really like being in front of the camera, but I like the fact that you can get something and you can have it there forever. And, you can capture something. And when I was in the field, I always wanted to have some sort of content. I saw these content creators, but I was newer and I didn't feel really ready. I didn't want to be somebody who was, a top producer his first year and now all of a sudden he's writing content I wanted it to be real. I didn't want to like I squeaked by or got away with something. So, I always had this vision of having a platform, with my YouTube channel and the social media that I'm doing, really to help grow this industry in a good light and to help give agents real tried and true methods, like I said, techniques and trainings that will help agents, but also, to brand myself because I do want to grow an agency. I am looking for agents who are entrepreneurial, who are coachable and who are seeking somebody who has proven skills and proven production and proven training as well. So I give away most of my training. I mean, there's a lot more in-depth private one-on-one coaching and private training that I do with my agents, like listening to my calls, listening to their calls, going over live calls, and the list goes on and on. But like I want to give, and I really believe that in giving, whatever, and again, with my faith, I think God will give that back to me. So, my long-term vision is I'd like to have, and I don't have a number, but I'd like to have as many people really tuned in to, my channels and gaining value out of it and using what I'm teaching and showing to really help them be more successful. I mean, it's great when I get agents calling me. I turn away more agents than not at this point. I have a few select agents I'm working with now, and I will continue to grow my agency, but I'm spending the time with the agents I have now. And I will continue to do that. But really, the main purpose of it, and it says that in the intro, is to really help you. I really want to give you knowledge and tools that work, that have worked, and that are working. So you can just do better and you can really help more people without having to be slimy. It doesn't have to be that way. And, give you a true look at the business and other true producers and other people who are doing good things with this business and other aspects in the insurance realm. So that's my overall goal. So, when you ask in 5 years, where do I see it? I don't really have like, oh, there's going to be 100,000 people, but I'd like to be somewhere like 10, 20, 30,000 subscribers. I think that would be awesome. And not just for me. I mean, I want to get my name out there and my agency out there for growth, but the main purpose is really to help you. So if the content is valuable, and if you're getting something from it, throw it a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm and it helps somebody else. Or throw it a comment like, hey, I like this part. Or just let me know like, hey, I didn't really like this. Or I'd like to see a video on this. I do viewer videos. I just put one out. So it is there for you.
I love that. And that's very true. I think any channel that picks up steam, and starts to be successful. So like in December, our agent channel will have been 3 years old. So it'll be a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And I find any channel out there, right? Whether it's like in the insurance side, whether it's Dave Duford or whether it's, anybody else like that really picks up steam. I think it's just because it's long-term, consistent value, right? Because that people come back to over and over again and they can learn something different. And that's always been our focus as well. And I think it's a great mentality. And it's how the channel's going to grow, because people will come back to it and they want to hear that type of content from your voice because they identify with you. And you're just going to get this tribe of people that, they're like you. I've always looked at it like the best thing you can do when you're making content is be unapologetically yourself,
Yeah.
because you're going to attract the right people to you and you're going to repel everybody else.
Yeah.
Not that you want
Yeah.
to repel people necessarily, but like there's some people that, who cares,
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's, that's another, obviously, and if I didn't say this, is to continue to bring content. I
Yes,
don't just want to throw 5 videos up there. I think I've already got over 100 videos up there,
that's
and I've
great.
only been doing it for maybe 6 months, so I have a lot more to give, and
Yeah.
I'm still learning, so I don't know it all. And that's part of the other really cool thing that I had no idea would come from this channel is, when I'm doing interviews with other agents, it's like a little private little learning session for me. I pick
Yeah.
up a bunch of different stuff, and I love that. Everybody does it a little bit different. I mean,
Hmm.
you can get a script and you can go through the script and you can do that, and that works. The script is there to help you. But as you evolve and as you grow as an agent, obviously you're going to find your own little ways.
Hmm.
And I love that. I love picking up other people's ways, and I love showing other people, hey, this is how I do it. And look at how, on my channel, I did an interview with Cami. There's a bunch of other interviews, but check that interview out with Cami. She also does, Medicare and ancillary products, but she has other different ways that she does it. So she cross sells Medicare and final expense. She's always posting cross sell, referral,
Hmm.
annuity. I mean, just so many cool avenues, and it's I love that. I love being able to lift other people up with it too. So that's really a cool part of it.
I love it. I love it. Where's the best place that people can find you? Is it on the YouTube channel or is there another place in addition to that?
Yeah, so YouTube was the first platform I started. I just started dripping content on Instagram, Apogee Quote. I just started dripping content on Facebook, Apogee Quote Agent Training Network. I just started on TikTok. I think I have one video up yet, but Apogee Quote. I mean, you search that. You can even in Google, Apogee Quote Insurance or Ken Sutton Life Insurance, and you can find me. But for sure, YouTube has the longer videos. The Instagram
Mhm.
are short. So if I have a bunch of shorts on YouTube as well, I'm dripping. So if you just want a minute or something, feel free to go on Instagram, take a look, or even on the YouTube shorts and take a look.
Perfect. I love it. Guys, we'll be throwing a link to Ken's channel down in the description of this video. So go over, check it
Thanks.
out, give him a subscribe, check out some of his content. It's really good stuff, especially if you want to sell more final expense. It's going to be a lot of really good stuff over there for that. Man, thanks for doing this, buddy. This was a really, really good conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate having me on.
The pleasure's all mine, and I know we'll do it again soon. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, or maybe you've enjoyed several videos, smash that like button. It helps a lot. It helps more agents just like you find the content easier. Comment below your thoughts. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, I want to hear it all. Even if you all hated it, I want to know. So comment down below. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified when we upload. And thanks for watching this, guys. We'll be back next time. Take care, and here's to your success and your abundance.